Does WWE need to capitalize on Drew McIntyre? Well, that's what we find out in today's video as we go over where I stand, and we'll figure out where you guys stand on that question as well. But as always, before you get anywhere in any video, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you never miss an upload. Go follow the socials. Links to those will be in the description of this video. That includes my Instagram account, my X account. Do all that, helps me out a ton. Now let's get you guys straight into today's video. Alright, so first I do want to clarify the question of does WWE need to capitalize on Drew McIntyre? So what do I mean by that? Now what do I mean by that is we know now that Drew McIntyre is currently involved in a feud with Cody Rhodes. He pretty much has been over the past month. The only difference is that we did have to have Cody step away and go out and go over to Crown Jewel and do that whole thing with Seth Rollins. But now we are back here with Cody and Drew, and pretty much what I mean by this question is basically, does Drew McIntyre need to come out on top of this feud, or pretty much does Drew McIntyre need to become the next champion? So that is pretty much that is the easiest way I can simplify that question. So we will start off first by talking about, like I said, Drew McIntyre. So Drew McIntyre, does he need this? Does he need to capitalize? Does he need to be the next WWE champion? I think that is a very obvious one. I would say absolutely yes. It only makes sense. It's Drew freaking McIntyre, man. It's Drew McIntyre. He's a great in-ring worker. He's done great heel work over the past year, and even last year he was involved in probably one of the best feuds of that year, if not the best feud, with CM Punk. But he's also been involved in good feuds this year as well. So overall, just looking at that, absolutely, Drew McIntyre obviously does need to become champion. But it's not just that, it's also the fact that, yes, WWE has built up Drew McIntyre so much in such a great way over the past year, and we've already seen Cody and Drew go at it already in, this year. Like I mentioned, they did it before Crown Jewel. Obviously, Cody Rhodes did come out on top there. Obviously, they had that match at WrestlePalooza, and then, like I mentioned, Cody Rhodes did come out on top there. But seeing as that WWE has already elevated Drew McIntyre so much over the past year, and then he lost the match against Cody Rhodes at WrestlePalooza, I think since we're running this back, we really need to have Drew McIntyre capitalize here. We really need Drew McIntyre to win here, man. We really cannot have Cody Rhodes win. And we'll talk about Cody Rhodes a little bit later on into this video as well, because he also plays a crucial role in this topic. But see, just like seeing as all that, man, how much Drew McIntyre has changed as a healer, and how much he's changed as a wrestler, in-ring worker over the past year, he needs to absolutely win this, man. It's a guy like Drew McIntyre. You can't just have him lose once and then run the same match back again and then have him lose. And you know, like, it's really like, what was the point of this past year? What was the point of having us focus on this guy? I mean, you're just having him lose again. Like, it was like pretty much pointless. You might as well have just not even ran the match back, and it would just, you know, be like all this for nothing. And that's kind of, you know, you don't want that with a guy like Drew McIntyre, because if that happens, man, that's a really friggin' big fumble in my opinion. All right, and I think a lot of people would argue the same, that would be a great freaking fumble. That would just be one of WWE's greatest fumbles, honestly. And another thing that does need to be mentioned as well is that Drew McIntyre has already been teased with a title. You know, obviously last year at WrestleMania, he was teased because he literally won the title but then was cashed in on. But that's kind of been like the whole thing is, you know, Drew McIntyre is just being teased to becoming a champion once again in WWE and being dominant. But it gets to that point where it's like, okay, yeah, you can have that as a storyline, but it gets to that point where it's like, okay, are we ever really going to capitalize on this guy? And that's what you don't want to get to. I don't think it's really gotten to that point yet, but I feel like slowly but surely it's that point is really going to rise upon us very quickly. And like I said, that is not what you want with a guy like Drew McIntyre at all. You do not want your fans and us to act that type of way towards Drew McIntyre. You want us to always think that, you know, we know that Drew McIntyre is going to eventually become a champion, but like, you just don't want to get to that point where it's like, okay, do we really need to be paying attention to this guy, or can we just move on to the next thing? You know, and that's what you don't want. You do not want that at all for a guy like Drew McIntyre, because then it kind of just follows the same path of like, okay, what was the point of all that over the past year? You know, why was, you know, WWE having McIntyre be on SmackDown main events, you know, main eventing PLEs? Well, you know, kind of what was the point of all that? You know, and that is just not what you want with a guy like Drew McIntyre. Okay, and now that we've kind of went over the basics and simple standards as to why WWE needs to capitalize on Drew McIntyre, I think we need to talk about Cody Rhodes. Now you guys are probably wondering, okay, what does Cody Rhodes have to do with all this? But he actually does have a lot to do with this, in my opinion. Obviously he is involved right now with Drew McIntyre because obviously they are running this feud back again. So where does Cody Rhodes lie in all this? Where does he stand in all of this, man? So I want to talk about kind of we've really had a big debate as to thinking about Cody and like is he going to turn heel or is he going to stay face? That's kind of been like a big topic. I mean, realistically, this entire year, if you ask me, it's like, okay, is Cody turning heel here? Is he turning heel here? And you don't. That's another thing that you just do not want to carry out for too long, because it's also gonna just get to that point, like I mentioned with Drew McIntyre. It's gonna be like, okay, it just looks like nothing's going to happen, and it's probably just going to stay the same for a long while, and we're never really going to get anything out of that question, and that's not what you want like with Cody Rhodes either. So I think having Drew McIntyre win and beat Cody and take his title is really going to solidify not only Drew McIntyre's chapter, and it's going to end that chapter of Drew McIntyre where it's like, okay, he's just being teased. It's finally going to get us to that point where he actually gets gold and he actually becomes and reigns dominant on the WWE. It's going to end that chapter, but I feel like when Drew McIntyre wins, and if he wins, man, it's also going to end the chapter and the question of, is Cody Rhodes going to turn heel or not? Because as we know, on this past episode of SmackDown, we saw a big jump from Cody's like what he's supposed to be, like a baby face, to literally just instantly just snaps and he's just a full-blown heel. We really saw that side of Cody on this previous episode of SmackDown when he clobbered Drew McIntyre with that title. And seeing as WWE is obviously placing this ever-looming presence of Cody Rhodes, possibly turning heel or staying babyface, putting that ever-looming presence into this feud really makes me think that, Drew McIntyre really needs to win there. Because let's think, if Cody Rhodes wins and we have this whole feud and we have that presence of, is Cody Rhodes turning face or is he turning heel? We have that whole presence. Having Cody Rhodes win, I feel like is just going to make him literally just stay a babyface, and we're just going to go back to, and it's just going to jump to another feud, and then we're going to get the same thing, and we're just going to be stuck in one big vortex, and it's going to be like, okay, Cody Rhodes wins, Cody Rhodes beats Drew McIntyre, we jump onto another feud with whoever, it doesn't matter who it is, and we have the same format, is Cody Rhodes heel, is he not, we have that same format. You just can't have that. That's just going to be one big vortex, and it's going to be just never ending. So if you have Drew McIntyre win, you have Drew McIntyre capitalize, you have him take this title, you have him beat Cody Rhodes, you have him reign freaking dominant. Drew McIntyre, having Drew McIntyre win will absolutely crush that concept, crush that big question of, is Cody Rhodes turning heel or not? And I think it inevitably will make Cody Rhodes heel, because like I mentioned, after we saw what we saw on SmackDown, you can already see Cody is, he's furious. He is furious with McIntyre, and that's probably going to turn into Cody just being overall furious in general. Alright, everybody, so inevitably, man, I just think that Drew McIntyre inevitably does just need to come out on top of this feud, just to not only assert dominance and assert himself as a top contender and a top WWE superstar in the WWE currently, but also just to end this everlasting vortex of Cody Rhodes possibly turning heel or being a babyface, man. I think inevitably Drew McIntyre needs to win, so inevitably Cody Rhodes can obviously become a heel that WWE is seemingly always grasping at, just they can never connect on it, man. But as always, be sure to just leave me your thoughts down in the comments below. And as always, before we get out of here, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications so you never miss an upload, and go follow the socials. The links to those will be in the description of this video. That includes my Instagram account, my X account, and do all that helps me out a ton, and I will catch y'all boys in the next one. Peace.